Los Angeles is burning. Fires destroy large swaths of the city, incinerating homes and leaving more than 27 dead. As firefighters battle to contain the flames, they struggle against an impossible situation.
All these fire hydrants were off. It was bad enough that the sprinkler water was off and the hose water was off for the homeowners to do what they could do, but all the fire hydrants were off.
Meanwhile, residents consider whether Southern California is still a viable place to live, as strong winds and bone-dry vegetation are the main contributor to the most destructive fires in LA history. Deadly infernos consume entire communities in greater Los Angeles. In the Palisades region of the city, more than 23,000 acres decimated. In Altadena, the Eaton fire took nearly 15,000 acres. Other smaller fires have destroyed pockets of the city, spreading more quickly than they can be extinguished. The cause of the fire is unclear, but the reason the fire spread so quickly is blatantly obvious. The extreme weather in Southern California over the past 2 years has been far from expected. The extremely dry conditions have been aggravated by winds gusting up to 100 miles per hour. It was like an atmospheric blow-dryer on bone-dry terrain. I've come to LA to see things for myself. This is the neighborhood of Altadena. 5 days into the fire, the devastation here is shocking. I'm just arriving at the site of the most destructive wildfire in Los Angeles history. And the first thing that's hitting me is just the destruction. There are burned structures everywhere. It smells of soot and oil and gas. And every structure in the area is gone. There's thousands that have burned down, an unknown amount of people dead at this point. And as I'm standing here among the rubble of what looks like a war zone, you can hear gas lines that are still on. It's roaring sound. You hear helicopters overhead as California firefighters are still trying to battle the fires that are raging just a couple miles away. And then also there's silence. There was nobody left here. This used to be a thriving neighborhood. There was community stores, a community center, thousands of homes, and they're all gone. Here, this looks like, I'm assuming it was a home. You can kind of see the structure. Maybe this was a garage here, but really the only thing that's left are a couple of metal cabinets and maybe the outline of the building over there. And that's the case for every building in this area. There is nothing left standing.
We saved all the houses on the south side of the street. On this side.
Nick Pemberton initially thought the neighborhood was experiencing a power outage. Wow. So walk me through that night, like the first moment that you realized something was wrong.
So the first night, I was actually on my way home from Home Depot with supplies that I would never need, thinking we were just gonna have a power outage. And I came up Altadena Drive and I saw the fire on the mountain. It was right around 6 p.m. and there were roadblocks already everywhere and fire trucks and smoke and wind, and they wouldn't let you go through that way, and it was just a massive emergency evacuation of vehicle after vehicle pouring south. I called the family and said, hey, this is serious, get ready, get packed. It may be time to go on this one. And never thinking in a million years that I would be saying those words in our house. I was so confident we were far enough south of the mountain that we would never have problems from a fire, maybe just smoke, never the actual fire. And so I got back here, the smoke was already pretty bad. And then we got the evacuation warnings, alerts on our cell phones saying you're in a high-risk area, be prepared, you may have to evacuate. So we packed everything, and that was a terrible moment, choosing, you know, those valuables, that what you should take and what you can sacrifice and leave behind.
Nick took his family to a hotel in an area of safety, but he decided he needed to return to the street to see if he could help prevent the fire from destroying the neighborhood.
And my wife said, well, you know, we're good, we're safe at the hotel. If you need to go, go. And so I said, yeah, definitely. And so I took off. I got here, I think it was around 7 a.m.-ish maybe.
The fire department in LA was already overstretched, so Nick and other neighbors set to work themselves.
There was no water, and so all the hoses had turned off. It was like the water had been shut off, or something had happened to the plant, I thought, maybe, to where the water wasn't working anymore. And so we started scooping buckets of water out of this gutter in front of my house, just scraping. And it was so funny because this gutter has driven us crazy for years, that this water is always ponding here.
And it was kind of a blessing.
And then it became a blessing because we scooped, I don't know how much, you know, water out of it. It was fairly deep. And then I brought potting soil over, and we grabbed some shovels and we started throwing potting soil up on the roof, trying to smother the fire.
I was up here, like he was saying, Nick said, we were up here trying to just kind of saturate him. But by that time his garage was already on fire, and this two-story house already burned down. So when it started getting this on fire, it started melting. If you see, it started melting on the side here. And then we were concerned about the gas line. And so what we did was just kick the fence in and kick it over there so that the fire would burn back on this side until we got enough water or something to stop it from getting my house.
Do you think people are going to be able to rebuild in here? I mean, it's just so much destruction.
I do. I do.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. It's our neighborhood. So, yeah, we will rebuild though.
Yeah, that was definitely a big part of the
If it
story
wasn't
here.
for the quick actions of Nick and other residents, the entire street would be gone. First responders fought tirelessly once they arrived, but they faced astonishing challenges. There was no water for them to use.
The water thing is a travesty. Maybe there's a good explanation. I shouldn't say it's a travesty, but the fire trucks not having water, and I talked to so many firefighters throughout this whole thing the last few days, and they said they had to go 20 blocks south to get water. All these fire hydrants were off. It was bad enough that the sprinkler water was off and the hose water was off for the homeowners to do what they could do, but all the fire hydrants were off.
Residents helped the fire department pump water from the swimming pools on the street.
Thank God for the swimming pools.
Nearly 200,000 people have been under evacuation orders. The insured losses could exceed $20 billion, and the total economic losses could reach $50 billion.
The California Insurance Commissioner has banned insurance companies from canceling or not renewing policies for homeowners affected by the fire for 1 year. But that doesn't cover people who got their policies canceled before the fire.
So we need new protections in place to prevent insurance companies from abandoning consumers who do the right thing and harden their homes, meet state wildfire guidelines for brush clearance and home protection.
In a city where more than 46,000 people are already homeless, tens of thousands more are now displaced due to the fires. I've been invited to help one of the charities providing food for people in the Pasadena area.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how you doing? I'm Nathan.
Good. Santiago, nice to meet you.
Renowned chef Jose Andres started World Central Kitchen in 2010. The charity partners with restaurants and chefs all over the world to provide food to those in need in disaster zones.
We were partnered here with World Central Kitchen to bring food to the community that was affected by the fires. We're just serving out free meals. We're just making sure that everybody here gets fed. Everybody that was affected by the fires is taken care of. So my food truck's name is Sus Arepas. An arepa is a dish that originates from Colombia and Venezuela. It's pretty much like a cornbread. Yeah, cornbread that we griddle, we open and we stuff. So you can put a lot of different food inside of it. You know? So if you want to step in, this is the kitchen.
Yeah. Making them to order as people come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in order, because this you want to serve it fresh. What we do first is we grab the arepa, we open it like I showed you. Then we're gonna put about that much. Okay?
Got it.
About that much, like that.
Perfect.
Boom, boom, like this. We'll put some pickled onions on there, some cheese. This one we're gonna top off with this sauce too. Here you go. We'll go ahead and top this off like this.
So right now we're driving near the perimeter of the Eaton fire. There's widespread destruction up there, but there are some homes that are standing, and last night there was reports of widespread looting. So the governor's called in the National Guard, and they're posted at the entrances to these neighborhoods that were most badly affected. We are passing a checkpoint right now. It's manned by local law enforcement, it's manned by the military, and they are just keeping everybody out of the affected area. And meanwhile, fire departments are continuing to battle the blazes that are growing in other parts of the city. I'm driving up to the boundary of the Palisades fire. It expanded pretty dramatically overnight last night, and this neighborhood that I'm in now is fairly affluent, fairly wealthy. That is an evacuation order that is going out over a phone right now. The evacuation orders expanded into this neighborhood last night. The Palisades fire is continuing to grow. It's only 11% contained, and it added about 1,000 acres last night. Meanwhile, more homes are being threatened. Off to my left, you can just see this massive smoke plume that is rising over the Palisades fire. It is blocking out the sun, and it's really a level of destruction that LA has never seen before. At the largest fire in the Palisades, more than 21,000 acres have burned, and so far, only 11% is contained. Right now, we're on the outskirts of the Palisades fire. It's continuing to grow, and this neighborhood is being threatened. Firefighters have staged here trying to save the buildings, but the flames are continuing to encroach up the side of this canyon wall. There's helicopters, there's firefighting personnel, pretty much everything you can imagine, an a last-ditch effort to save these structures. Firefighting going on right behind me. They have helicopters bringing in water. We have firefighters staged behind me trying to save these homes in this neighborhood. But at this point in time, the fire is growing so quickly, they just don't know. Overnight, 7 people were declared missing. We know at least 11 people are dead, but officials keep telling me they just don't know what the final death count is going to be because they can't get into some of these places. The damage is too severe. Yesterday, the president and the governor of California both said there needs to be an investigation into where the water resources went that were needed to fight this fire on the first day. Right now, though, all we know is the fires are continuing to grow. There are more evacuations across this region of Los Angeles. The National Guard has been brought in to help shut streets down and keep people safe. Here at the outbreak of the Palisades fire is a scene of destruction. These cars were brought here by people who were trying to evacuate when the deadly fire roared down this hill. Firefighters told people to leave through this route, the problem being people panicked, left their cars in the streets, trapping evacuees behind them and emergency workers in front of them. Eventually, the fire department came through with a bulldozer and cleared a path. But when that happened, evacuees were trapped behind this road with nowhere to go. The destruction you see in these cars is what they faced that night. Some of them burned down to the rims, others surviving. Shows just how indiscriminate this fire was and the deadly consequences for those who couldn't get out.
People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out. And I encourage everyone who has been impacted to get assistance.
There is story after story of insufficient water to fight the fire, and still no clear cause for how the inferno started. At this point, it feels like there are more questions than answers. I've heard that the LA Fire Department and the mayor of Altadena are holding a meeting for the community.
The fires has caused significant damage. We have over 7,000 structures damaged. 3,200 residents have been evacuated, and there's still over 9,000 structures still at risk. So it's important that we follow the guidelines just to keep people safe. And we all have to agree that the area is safe for people to repopulate before we can actually start to do it. So it's a long process. We are making some progress, but just be patient with us because it's going to take some time. The Sheriff's Department, we have over 350 personnel on scene, actively working. We have over 1,400 missions in place. That includes hard road closures, traffic control points, roving security, and evacuations as needed. We're still supported by the National Guard and by California Highway Patrol. The 6 o'clock curfew is still in effect, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. mandatory curfew.
At this time, the police have made 25 arrests against people for violating the curfew, and it continues to be strictly enforced.
You have my commitment as mayor of Ladena, together with your town council, your members of the Board of Supervisors, and our congressional delegation, that we will do all that we can to get you the resources to rebuild.
Every time you go outside here in LA, you can see and smell the ash in the air. There is no clean air to breathe here, and this means long-term risk to people's health.
We feel for everyone. Our heart goes out to you. And I just want you to know that we're doing the best we can to make sure that we help with this situation. And we're going to be there for you no matter what.
The housing crisis that is going to ensue, but I really want to see the action be put into place, because what I saw was the city and the local government really caught off guard with this type of crisis. And so now they told people what they want to hear, but we really need to see that action actually being taken to back up people who are putting in insurance claims, to help the community rebuild, to ensure that it stays a historically black neighborhood.
Do you feel like the city and the county did enough to combat this fire when it broke out, the Eaton fire specifically?
I think they're doing as much as they can with the resources that they have. And again, I think it points to like a larger picture of just the lack of preparedness and lack of resources that is allocated to these kinds of climate catastrophes. And I think that with the changing climate, they're only going to increase. And we need to start looking at real solutions, comprehensive solutions that go at every state, every level of the government, whether it's state, federal, local, so that our children, our schools, our families, and our elderly are well taken care of and are able to defend their homes.
2024 brought an exceptionally hot summer and fall. Scientists attribute the warmer temperatures to human-caused climate change. The summer-fall period ranked as Southern California's third hottest since 1895. And this occurred during a year that U.S. government agencies say was the Earth's warmest since the start of record-keeping in 1880.
We had strong, dry, downslope winds in the LA Basin in January. This is what's known as offshore wind season. It's when we would see what are often called the Santa Ana winds. These were a little bit different than typical Santa Ana winds, and by these I mean the ones that were occurring as these catastrophic fires burned through Altadena and Pacific Palisades last week. They were both stronger, more widespread, especially at lower elevations. So we saw these 80, 90 mile an hour wind gusts in the San Fernando Valley that caused some damage in their own right. And they were also from a slightly different direction. But generally speaking, if we were going to see winds like that, this is the time of year when you would expect to see those. And lesser winds from land to sea are not that unusual. But what was much more unusual, in fact, arguably historically unprecedented, was how dry it has been going into those winds.
Yeah.
So we had big winds during big wind season, but usually those big winds come after rains, not necessarily big rains, but at least something to get the ground meaningfully wet to allow that vegetation to start to uptake some of that water through the soil, through roots, and be a little bit less, for lack of a better term, ridiculously dry.
Scientists from UCLA who have been studying climate change in Los Angeles say that global warming has likely contributed to roughly 1/4 of the dryness in the terrain in Los Angeles.
Look no further than the hills of Los Angeles. It has gone from the home of disaster movies to a scene of disaster. Who pays the price for climate destruction around the world? Not the fossil fuel industry, pocketing profits and taxpayer subsidies as their products wreak havoc. Every people suffer with their lives and livelihoods, with higher insurance premiums, volatile energy bills, and higher food prices. And particularly the most vulnerable, who have done the least to unleash this devastation.
The eyes of the world have been on Los Angeles and these terrible fires. The fact that many Hollywood celebrities have been posting about the events and have themselves been affected has brought attention to the story. Many of the neighborhoods that burned were owned by the wealthy, but there are communities across the city who may never be able to rebuild, who have been left with nothing, livelihoods gone. No electricity, sewage and drainage systems are ruined, water is undrinkable. I'm making a last stop in Altadena. I've been invited to meet some local residents who have come together to help lower-income victims of the fire.
We have water, we have women's clothes, children's clothes, baby stuff, food, toilet paper, toothpaste. We got a little bit of everything.
How did this start?
It wasn't planned. We just started calling on friends and asking, who could come, and this is what it turned out to be.
How is word spreading? I mean, a lot of people are showing up while we're here. How are people hearing about this?
Most of these people are friends, family, or people from the community that we see every day. And they saw me here, and then another friend came. A lot of these people I know since kids. So it's hard to see them suffer with their families. Everything's wiped out.
We went to Costco this morning, grabbed a bunch of cases of water, Pampers, whatever we could think about that everyone would need, and came out here and decided to give back.
You guys are doing food, there's clothing over here. It looks like a community.
Yes, everyone's coming together. We've also had people come here and just drop off items. Like, hey, we see that you guys are out here doing this. You guys need more water. We've had guys come out here and say, hey, where do you get your meat from? We'll bring you some more meat. So it's definitely a community effort, and it's much appreciated. We've had People come out here crying. I've hugged a couple of people that just really needed a hug, said they've lost everything. How are the kids that have nothing going to move on from this? Because a lot of families I know, they don't have it like that. They don't have money to just say, oh, I'm gonna rebuild. No. Some people may, but it's a lot that don't.
Some we've spoken to over the last few days say they are afraid that Los Angeles is no longer a safe place to live. Weather here is too extreme, and the risk is too high.
I've seen windstorms. The windstorm of 2011 was massive. A lot of trees fell, but no major fires. I saw Eden Canyon fire in the 90s, I think it was, but that was contained to the mountain, and it was contained to the mountain burn, not the residential area, other than up in the canyon. So, but this is massive. This is incredible. Nothing like it.
As California slowly begins the long road to rebuild, there remains a big problem that is only getting worse. The region is suffering from extreme climatic changes. And without radical action, the risk of another similar disaster becomes more and more likely.